Hello, my name is Ariel, like the mermaid, and if there's one thing that I've noticed on online discussions, like on things like Tumblr and even in the YouTube comments, it's that things can escalate very quickly in online discussions. And that's because it's so easy to make assumptions, because you're not like face-to-face interacting with people on the internet. You don't really see them, you don't really kind of have the same amount of empathy for that person as you would in just real life. That often causes things to just get out of control really fast. And since I want this to be kind of a place for discussion on the internet, I thought I should make a video to kind of encourage more healthy online discussion. I think I did make a video about this a little earlier, but I think it's something that just should constantly be emphasized. And I mean, again, also I think based on some of my experiences on Tumblr, I felt the need to make. I think the big thing is, and this is a thing that is very true with Tumblr, is that I think a lot of times in online discussions, people tend to be quick to assume the worst in a person, even if they're saying something that maybe sounds like it might be kind of bigoted or it might be not so great. A lot of times people are quick to assume this person is a horrible bigot and a terrible person and just needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. But the thing is, in an online thing, and just from text, it's very easy to write something that might come off totally different from the way you meant it to come off. I think a big thing that is really helpful is, instead of immediately assuming certain things about the person and commenting on that, going like, you're a terrible bigot, you should die, or whatever, things like that that are just very heated and stuff. I think it's good to kind of take a moment and kind of go like, okay, let's just focus on what they're actually saying as opposed to my assumptions about the person based on what they're saying. So, take, like if someone's saying something like about transgender people, kind of go like, well, I don't think that thing, I think that your argument about that, has some faults, and, it kind of just point out what they're saying, what is wrong with what they're saying, as opposed to saying things directly about who they are and making assumptions about that, I think is good. And then sometimes they might go like, sometimes you might reveal in the next comment that no, they totally meant what they said, and they're actually just not a great person, and maybe they'll say even worse things. Which, in that case, it might just be time to stop talking with them because they're probably a waste of time. Or maybe you can continue to have a discussion if they're respectful enough. I mean, the big thing is like when it's comments that are just, like, I don't know, I'm gonna just say what kinds of comments are the bad comments. Sorry if people don't like the words I'm gonna say. But like, I get comments occasionally on my videos like, die you tranny faggot, or things like that. Not too often, but occasionally I get not so nice comments like that. And, in general, I tend to, sometimes if I'm in the mood to write a snarky remark, I might, but generally I think it's best to ignore those people, because a lot of times they're just trying to get attention and they're trying to just be jerks. So, why give them what they want, which is attention? It's just kind of feeding the troll. But sometimes, even if someone's kind of standing their ground on something they said that's problematic, either, if you don't think that it's worth having the conversation, then just don't have the conversation, and you kind of, but, if they're being respectful enough, maybe, continue the conversation, be like, well, and continue to just point out what's wrong specifically in what they're saying, and less going straight for, calling them a bigot. There might be a point where you maybe should just kind of call them out on their bigotry if it's getting pretty obvious, but it's sometimes that can be good, being told, hey, you're being a bigot right now, you're being racist, you're being sexist. Sometimes that's helpful, and sometimes that actually makes the person go like, well, wait a second, maybe I am. Sometimes, though, being told you're a bigot right off the bat just makes the people more angry and just kind of gives them a sense of like empowerment. Hey, how dare this person call me a bigot? I'm not a bigot, and just kind of makes them even more angry and just kind of makes their terrible bigotry even worse. but I mean, it's sometimes, you know, through discussion, you even if you continue to disagree with each other, you can kind of figure out things. You know, you can figure out about how different people think, and they can maybe start to kind of be like, hey, well, you know, I still kind of believe what I believe, but there's actually some interesting points in here, and there's some things that are valuable in here, and I didn't really think about it that way before, and maybe I'll, you know, think differently when I'm kind of posting a comment, at least. You know, and sometimes, like, a big thing that happens to me very frequently on my videos is, at first, I'll have a comment where I'm just like, I don't really think I agree with that at all, like that doesn't seem right, or whatever, or they are kind of saying, like, you know, like, I disagree with you, or whatever. They say something kind of extreme, maybe sounding, and I maybe kind of try to be, I go like, well, okay, let me just kind of proceed with caution and kind of go, like, maybe ask a clarifying question. What do you mean exactly by that? And then sometimes, a lot of times, I actually find out through these discussions, we actually, you know, a lot of times these people, I don't really disagree with them as much as I thought I would, and they actually have just maybe a slightly different perspective, but they actually agree on most things, and maybe sometimes it's just like terminology or certain words that they just get a different that I use, that they kind of turn them off or don't really, you know, that they don't really have a similar idea about, but a lot of times when I discuss things with people, I realize, oh wait, we don't actually come from as different viewpoints as I thought, and you know, that can be kind of valuable. And from that, like, we can kind of learn, oh well, maybe it's just this kind of word I used, or maybe like the way I worded it wasn't the best, and maybe that's more the problem as opposed to the idea I was trying to get across. Because that's a big thing, is a lot of times when you say certain words different, and you know, word things certain ways, sometimes it doesn't come across to people the way you intend it, and I think that's an important thing too, and that's a big thing that's a problem with online discussion. But I think I want to encourage healthy, positive, you know, constructive conversations, you know, where we can disagree with each other sometimes, but we can be respectful, and that's like the main thing, is just being respectful to one another, and not just and being careful when we get angry by, you know, and when comments make us angry, because someday it can get out of control really quickly, and you know, eventually, and you know, if you like look at the terrible like flame wars that are on some YouTube videos, and that oftentimes just become not even about the video at all, it's just a little ridiculous. But you know, hopefully if people are just respectful and actually take the time to actually focus on what they're saying and what other people are saying, as opposed to, you know, making assumptions about their character, I think that would create a lot more constructive conversations.